So at this time, I want to turn the presentation over to Dr. Kathy Masters. Kathy, please go ahead.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Kathleen Masters. I'm a professor in the College of Nursing at the University of Southern Mississippi and author of the textbook, Role Development in Professional Nursing Practice. It is an honor to speak to you today about the 4th edition of this textbook. I'm really excited about the 4th edition. I'm going to begin by telling you a little bit about myself before we talk about the book. I earned my baccalaureate degree in nursing from Northern Kentucky University, a master's degree in nursing from the University of Southern Mississippi, and after I began teaching, a few years later, I earned a Doctor of Nursing Science degree from Louisiana State University Health Sciences Center in New Orleans. I've been a registered nurse for over 30 years, close to 35. I began my career as a pediatric nurse and soon transitioned to pediatric hematology, oncology, bone marrow transplant nursing. And since that time, I've practiced in several areas of nursing, including adult oncology, intensive care, telemetry, and then home health care nursing. I've practiced as a nurse educator for over 20 years. My current areas of interest and expertise include undergraduate nursing education, patient education, evidence-based practice, nursing theory, and quality and safety in healthcare. As I said, I'm really excited about the 4th edition of the Role Development book. I believe that the 4th edition really improves on the 3rd edition of the text. In the previous edition, I had incorporated the Nurse of the Future competency model, but I noticed as I actually used the book in the classroom that I was still supplementing content related to Nurse of the Future competencies and cues and competencies. Thus, I really spent a great deal of time reorganizing the 4th edition of the book. There's significant revision in the 4th edition of the book in order to refocus the content on those nursing competencies. The 4th edition of the book continues to target undergraduate nursing students and incorporates foundational concepts and competencies expected in the practice of the professional nurse. The book is still organized into 2 major units that include Foundations of Professional Practice and then Unit 2 that focuses on professional nursing practice and the management of patient care. And the 4th edition continues to incorporate Nurse of the Future nursing core competencies throughout each chapter with boxes that include the essential knowledge, skills, and attitudes, the KSA, that reflect cognitive, psychomotor, and affective learning domains for applicable competencies. The chapters in Unit 1 provide the student with a basic foundation in areas related to the history of healthcare and nursing, theoretical frameworks of nursing, philosophy of nursing, foundations of ethical nursing practice, the social context of nursing, socialization to the nursing role, and a chapter related to management of the nursing career. The chapters in Unit 2 are more directly related to patient care management and include chapters related to patient safety, quality improvement, evidence-based practice, patient-centered care, informatics, teamwork and collaboration, ethical issues in practice, and legal issues in nursing. The 4th edition continues to include learning objectives for each of these chapters, key terms and concepts in each chapter. In addition, chapters contain case studies, critical thinking questions, and classroom activities. At this point, what I would like to do is share with you some specific information about what is different in chapters in the 4th edition of the textbook. For example, the chapter on the history of nursing was revised to include additional content related to recent events in the United States that have impacted nursing and healthcare. These additions include information related to various Institute of Medicine reports and, of course, the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act. In addition, historical figures and events in other countries, including Great Britain, Canada, and Australia, as well as the history of the International Council of Nurses, have been included to provide students with a more global view of historical events that have impacted the history of nursing. The chapter on frameworks for professional nursing practice was expanded as well to include additional nursing theories, Theories added to this edition include transitions theory, uncertainty and illness theory, and Beck's postpartum depression theory. Based on feedback from faculty who are actually using the textbook, I also included content related to several non-nursing theories that include general system theory, social cognitive theory, stress and coping process theory, and Selye's general adaptation syndrome into Chapter 2. Of course, the updated definition of nursing as published by the American Nurses Association in the summer of 2015 is included in Chapter 3, and Chapter 4, the chapter related to the foundations of ethical practice, was updated to reflect the revised ANA Code of Ethics with Interpretive Statements that was also published in 2015. Chapter 5, the chapter addressing the social context of nursing, now also includes content related to trends in nursing, including workplace environment, the complexity of nursing work, and trends in nursing education, as well as societal trends that impact healthcare. And inspired by the IOM Future of Nursing report, the Management of Nursing Career chapter was completely rewritten. The chapter still addresses nursing as a career as opposed to being viewed as a job, but also includes topics such as professional engagement, mentoring, lifelong learning, and self-care. But in addition, now students are challenged to examine trends that impact nursing and healthcare and ask, for example, what is the future of nursing for me? And am I currently practicing to the fullest extent of my nursing education and training as they plan their career goals? All of those changes improve the 4th edition, but the most significant changes have occurred in Unit 2. In Unit 2, there's an entire chapter that is now devoted to each of the Q's and competencies: safety, quality improvement, patient-centered care, evidence-based practice, informatics, and teamwork and collaboration. The first chapter in Unit 2 is patient safety and professional nursing practice. In this chapter, we examine concepts that include a culture of safety, classification of error, safety initiatives to improve care. A review of various IOM reports is included, the ones that have impacted patient safety, as well as content related to critical thinking and clinical judgment in the context of patient safety. More changes include an entirely new chapter with a focus on quality improvement. The content in this chapter is related to the concepts of quality measurement, measures of nursing care, healthcare quality reporting, quality improvement processes and tools, and the role of the nurse in quality improvement. The revised evidence-based practice chapter includes additional content as well, content related to the appraisal of research and appraisal of clinical practice guidelines, as well as additional implementation models. The chapter on patient education has been expanded to include the dimensions of patient-centered care and communication as a strategy to support patient-centered care. All of the content related to patient education from the previous edition is still in this revised chapter, but it's been reconceptualized really to look at patient education as a strategy to support patient-centered care. The chapter on informatics has also been revised, and the revision highlights nursing informatics competencies based on the components of the Tiger Informatics Competency Model. And those competencies include basic computer competencies, information literacy, and information management. The chapter also includes information related to legislation that has impacted health informatics, such as HIPAA and the HITECH Act, which encouraged the use of electronic health records and provided financial incentives for meaningful use of electronic health records. In Chapter 13, teamwork and collaboration is examined in the context of healthcare quality and safety. This is a new chapter in the text, and it includes content related to models of nursing care interprofessional collaborative practice domains, and team performance and communication. Content is also included in the chapter related to interprofessional communication issues and techniques to facilitate interprofessional communication. Finally, chapters 14 and 15. Chapter 14, Ethical Issues in Professional Nursing Practice, was updated to reflect the newly revised ANA Code of Ethics with interpretive statements, and Chapter 15, Law in the Professional Nurse, was also updated to reflect the new edition of the ANA Standards of Professional Nursing Practice. An overview of both of those revised documents is also included in the appendices of the textbook. So, to summarize, I believe that what makes the textbook different and sets it apart is the explicit focus on competencies with the incorporation of the Nurse of the Future Nursing Core Competency Model throughout each chapter, and also the reorganization of particularly the Unit 2 chapters that include a chapter focusing on each cues and competency. That makes this textbook unique in that no other role development textbooks currently on the market actually specifically focus on these essential competencies. Feedback from instructors and faculty who have used the textbook was actually used as I considered the revisions to this text. Some feedback from instructors that talk about what they like about the text include incorporation of competencies throughout the chapter. So, of course, I wanted to, continue that focus. Faculty also say that they like the resources. The end of the chapter suggested classroom activities and case studies, as well as PowerPoint slides, which in this edition, the PowerPoint slides also include links to online videos so that those videos are conveniently available to faculty in the classroom. Some of the quotes, we've included some comments, quotes from faculty who've actually used the textbook. I'll not read all of them to you, but I will highlight a few. One faculty commented that the text is well written and covers a wide variety of timely, appropriate topics. Another faculty says that feedback from students has been very positive, and that the reason this book was chosen over other textbooks was because it included content on mid-range theory and the inclusion of ANA Standards of Practice and Code of Ethics. This same faculty continued that I also like the health literacy material, which is not included in other textbooks. Other faculty comments include the chapter on evidence-based practice is really good, and I love the chapter on research. It is straightforward and in a language that most students can grasp. Students, when asked about the textbook, say they like it because it's easy to read, and that actually is intentional. I wanted to create a book that was easy for students to read. Students also say that they like the incorporation of critical thinking questions throughout the chapters that promote reflection. Students say that they like the textbook because it includes a variety of end-of-the-chapter independent student activities as well as faculty-led classroom activities. Since I use the textbook in the classroom each semester in my own teaching, the classroom activities that are included at the end of the chapters are actual activities that I incorporate into the classroom as I teach the Professional Concepts course at my own university. For example, when I teach content related to safety, I use the National Council State Board of Nursing historical cases in class and link these cases to systems and quality improvement concepts through root cause analysis exercises. And this exercise is an example of the kinds of activities that are included at in the end of the chapter exercises and activities. I also like to share videos with students when teaching the quality and safety content, as well as the patient-centered care content and other topics as well, but particularly these topics, because I feel like when I show videos that the students can actually hear the voices of the patients and their families. So this is one reason that I included links to videos in the PowerPoint slides. so that those would be readily available to faculty. Examples of videos that are linked in the slides include the Josie King story, the Lewis Blackman story, a video featuring Don Berwick speaking about patient-centered care, and the Chasing Zero video, among many other videos that are linked. As mentioned before, we will have some time at the end of the webinar for questions and answers, but first I'm going to turn it back over to Jen, and she will highlight Navigate to Advantage Access that's available with the 4th edition of the Role Development in Professional Nursing Practice textbook.
Great. Thanks so much, Kathy. What great information. I think that gives the instructors who've dialed in today just a great overview of some of the new changes to this 4th edition. So like Kathy mentioned, each new print copy of this textbook comes with Navigate to Advantage Access. And for those of you who might be unfamiliar with this product, it's a digital product which provides resources for both students and instructors. I think one of the key resources we feature is a free textbook. It's an ebook that's embedded within the Navigate to course. It's comprehensive, very interactive, and we've gotten a lot of great feedback both from faculty and students on this. Case studies are featured, as well as student practice activities, assessments, loads of instructor resources, and also learning and analytics reporting tools so that you as an instructor can find out, how your class is doing real time. It's built within the Moodle framework, so it also has, gradebook capabilities, etc. So if you'd like to find out more information about this product, or if you would like to request an access code, you can simply visit jblnavigate.com/tryitnow, and that will be a way that you can fill out a form and request access today. So at this point, I wanted to see if we had any questions. I'll take a look at anything that's come in via the chat feature. So I have just one question that has come in, and Kathy, what they're asking is, it's regard to cultural care in nursing, and is this aspect covered in the book? And then secondarily, how do you believe the theory and interpersonal competencies may help to obtain these skills? So it seems like they're talking and asking if there's a focus around cultural care in nursing, and then how is it that the theory and interpersonal competencies might help someone obtain cultural nursing skills?
The cultural competence is actually covered in 2 places in the textbook. One is in the social context chapter. There is a section there about cultural competence, and a section there about changing demographics of society and cultural diversity. Then cultural competence is also covered in the patient-centered care chapter. Particularly, it's covered in one section just talking about patient-centered care, and in another area of that chapter talking about patient education and adapting patient education to accommodate for cultural diversity. I am not exactly sure that the second part of the question, I don't really address that in the textbook as far as in theory, the interpersonal competency theory. So I don't know how to answer that question really.
Okay. We have a question that comes from another instructor that is asking whereabouts in the text might leadership be covered. She has students that are returning RNs, and they're very interested in stepping up to use leadership competencies in their new staff nursing roles.
And, I think that as I think about leadership in the context of of what content is in the book, the chapter on managing your career has content there about continuing education, and the chapter on chapter 5 in the social context of nursing has information there about advancing your career through education and the different roles of nursing. Leadership per se is not really covered in the textbook. It's focused more on the professional practice of the nurse rather than leadership. Although I will say that I have had some questions from people just recently about leadership and about systems leadership in particular, and I'm making notes of that with ideas for the next edition that I'm thinking if faculty see a need for that content in the book, that it's probably time to add that content. But that content is not specifically in the 4th edition of the book.
Okay, thanks, Kathy.
Yeah. And I will add that when you look at the Nurse of the Future core competency and you go around the wheel and look at all of the different components of the competency model, leadership is one of those things. When I decided to use the Nurse of the Future core competency model, what I did was pull out those pieces of the model that were applicable for the practicing nurse and the content that I saw as part of this applicable to this textbook, rather than using every competency on the wheel. But as I'm hearing from faculty really just within the last month or so, I really have begun to think that for the next edition that comes up, probably need to expand to include some of those other spokes on that wheel, which include systems-based practice and leadership, which are probably the only ones that are not really covered in the book, since safety, quality improvement, evidence-based practice, et cetera, all of those areas have their own specific chapter. The only other thing I can say about that is in the chapter on teamwork and collaboration, there is some information about the nurse as a manager of care, but it really focuses more on the management of patient care rather than the leadership role within the healthcare system. It also, in that chapter, we talk about the nurse as a leader in the interprofessional team, but again, that focus is really on the nurse involved in direct patient care, which is really the focus of the book, that nurse in direct patient care rather than the nurse who is a leader in the healthcare system.
Mm-hmm.
Although, like I said, I can see a place for that in the future.
Thanks, Kathy. Well, I just want to remind everyone that if you would like to request a review copy, you can do so by visiting go.jblearning.com/mastersrole-E. And if you'd also like a little bit more information about Navigate 2, our digital product for this particular textbook, you can do so by visiting jblnavigate.com/2. You'll also see a variety of videos and trailers that we have that will just kind of walk you through different aspects of the product. And you're also welcome to request a trial access code. I think that's really the best way so that you can get the full scope of the product, is to get in there and to try it for yourself. At this point, I'd really like to thank Dr. Kathy Masters for taking time to, out of her day, to join us and to tell us all about the exciting new pieces of content we can find in the 4th edition. Thanks for joining us, Kathy.
Thank you so much.
I want to thank everyone for taking time out of their day to join us as well. This session will be recorded and posted to our Jones and Bartlett Learning YouTube channel, and we'll be sure to share that link with you post-event. Thanks, everyone.